Hello and welcome to Real Opinions, and today I'm going to be reviewing episode 1 of the new Batman Telltale game series, Realm of Shadows. So for anyone who doesn't know the standard Telltale style of gameplay, it basically revolves less so around actual mechanics and, conflict or gameplay in the strictest sense of terms, and more around choice making, dialogue branching systems, and basically multiple narrative pathways. It's very much in the school of the David Cage kind of thinking, like Heavy Rain, or more recently Until Dawn comes to mind. No, that wasn't Quantic Dream, but all those kind of games, they all have this similar thing where your game is basically to make choices, dialogue choices, narrative choices, things that will supposedly, not always, but supposedly affect the story. And then in between, you'll have maybe some quick time events to sort of get through action sequences where you're just required to hit button prompts in order to progress, or maybe little bits where you explore around areas. And that's what Telltale have been doing for years now, and they've kind of honed it in and made it very much their style. So they've had The Walking Dead, they did it with Game of Thrones, they did it with Minecraft and with Borderlands, and they even had their own kind of original. I mean, it wasn't original, it was actually adapted from a graphic novel, but it was original in the sense that it wasn't based on a TV show or anything. Their own adaptation of a thing called The Wolf Among Us, and they're all good. I don't think any of them are great, because for me, they've never fulfilled on that promise of having truly diverging story paths. They're very much linear with just a few, maybe a character will die and then just won't appear in scenes, or maybe you'll get a slightly different ending, but it does feel very much like your choices only matter to an extent. And when the rest of the game, and that's fine for something like, say, Mass Effect or Fallout, where you've got gameplay in between, but these Telltale games are solely based around this principle of choice. The gameplay is almost there as an obligation. You press a few buttons to not die, and that's it. It's very much there because they feel dutifully obliged to include it. It's not the focus. The focus is the choice, so you'd think that they make choices matter more. Anyway, they're now doing this with Batman, and only one episode of it is out so far, but I don't know, I might try and review each one as they come. But business as usual, it's choices, it's talking, but they have made a few improvements, I will grant them this. For a start, I feel like the actual writing quality is higher here. A lot of people always talk about how Telltale's writing is so sophisticated, so mature, so much better than the average video game writing, and it's up there with film and television. And I don't really think that's true. I think the writing's always been a bit clunky, obvious, a bit like people say what they're feeling and they express how certain things are going to impact them in very heavy-handed ways, I think, so that you can make your choices more with more informed about how they're going to impact people. They always feel like people are talking in exposition, or they're talking in their character bios almost. Here it felt like it was a little more subtly handled, and that the quality of the dialogue was something that I'd accept in television. It didn't just feel like good for a video game, which is what I get the impression most people are saying when they talk about Telltale games. Not good writing, but better than the average video game writing. Here it felt like actually good writing. There's a confrontation you have when you play as Bruce Wayne, and you're talking with Falcone, mob boss of Gotham, and that's a genuinely well-written scene that I would accept in, high-quality television. Like, it was well-written. So I think the writing is actually better. It's also much, 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 much better in the graphical department than any other Telltale game has been. They've always been, because they're cheap, they're episodic, they're not about graphics or gameplay, they're supposed to be about story. They've never looked pretty. They've admittedly sort of not gone for realism in their style. You look at The Wolf Among Us and it looks like a graphic novel, and that's fine. I think it's a way to sort of get around the fact that they don't have the best animation. But here, it's fluid. It's much more impressive. The lighting's good. This one is the most visually impressive Telltale game by far. It was also the one where I felt like those obligatory action sequences were actually better than they normally are. I think it's because the choreography of these fights was much more inventive. In a lot of these Telltale ones, it's just punch, dodge, punch, throw to the floor, whereas here they're using Batman's gadgets and they're using his fighting style in a very innovative way, and it's quite fun the first time actually when it's doing one of his like Predator stealth sequences and you don't see where Batman is and you're just instructed to do like a swipe across the screen or something, and then like the goon will just get dragged out of the shadows, and it's very kind of like with every move you have someone just goes flying up, but you don't feel like you're doing that, you feel like it's just happening, and it's actually kind of cool. And they've done like, there's this one bit I really actually did quite like where you use a drone to survey an area so you can plan out an attack, and what you do is you essentially pick which animations are going to happen. I don't know if it matters, but like it comes up with like a strategic list saying like you need to take out this guy quickly, this guy's off guard, so do something that will surprise him, or like this guy's close to this guy, and so it felt like I was making the choices strategically. I don't know if it matters, I don't know if it's just for different choreography and for stylistic purposes, but I liked having that control, and it made the fight more interesting to watch when it came to the button prompt execution. So I think that the fights are better. I don't know why they can't try now to maybe actually come up with a fight system or some kind of gameplay system. They've been doing this for a while now. I feel like they could innovate and maybe come up with some actual gameplay, but whatever. It's better here, I think, than it's been in any other game. And they have these detective sequences, because obviously you're Batman. They're kind of fun. They're not hard, but again, anything to sort of break up the monotony of the quick time events. You basically walk around a crime scene, find clues, LA Noire style, but then what you've got to do is link them together, so you've got to sort of find the connection between them. So you find a bullet, and this is obviously like a very, very dumbed down example I'm giving you, but say you find a bullet, you find a few other things, and you find a guy with a hole in his head, you connect the bullet to the hole in the head, and then he kind of can reconstruct part of what happened in the crime using his gadget. That's fun. Its presentation is good, its writing is much better, and the gameplay is slightly improved from other Telltale games. As for the choices and the dialogue, well, that's obviously the main draw. It's split up in a way that I found quite interesting between you being Batman, and in the Batman sections you're doing the investigating and you're doing the fighting, and there's a couple of choices in the Batman bits to be fair, but the Bruce Wayne bits are where you make the majority of your narrative decisions, and you literally do spend half your time being Bruce Wayne and half your time being Batman, which is something I've never had in a game before, and it's really good. The Bruce Wayne bits are really good. Like, they turn kind of monotonous, boring things into important narrative events. Like there's a bit where you're in Wayne Manor holding like a fundraiser for Harvey Dent's campaign. Invited to this fundraiser is a mobster, and the mobster comes up to you as Bruce Wayne and offers to shake his hand, and everyone in the room, including some reporters, are watching, and you've got to decide whether it would be beneficial for the campaign to sort of be seen shaking a gangster's hand, or if you want to piss off the gangster and, you know, not do it. And it's a tense choice, and there's bits like where you hold a press conference, things like that should be boring but are actually kind of the most interesting parts. Villain-wise, so far we have Catwoman, she's fine. The Penguin, who they're doing something weird and different with, he's like a young kid who's Bruce Wayne's friend. They're kind of making him like Harry Osborn. Oswald Cobblepot's kind of like the Harry Osborn of this. I'll see where it goes. And obviously the mob bosses, as I said. So far it is standard Telltale, but a bit better in my opinion. Like I said, I've not always been the biggest fan of Telltale because I feel like they're story focused, but that their stories aren't necessarily that great, and they're like dialogue focused, but their dialogue's not ever been that great, and so I've always wondered what the hell the point of them is. But here, it felt a bit better. I would say if you like Telltale games, you'll probably like this one. If you like Batman, it's actually so far a fairly intriguing Batman story, where we're uncovering sort of secrets about Thomas and Martha Wayne's past, and it's quite interesting. If you're a fan of games in general, I would say it's good, but it's not Until Dawn. Until Dawn is, for me, probably the best example of this style of interactive entertainment, because it felt like my choices actually mattered, because the characters were expendable enough to die or go missing or to have various things happen to them, and it not to affect the plot so drastically that they couldn't do it. So in Until Dawn, it felt like my choices had weight, whereas here, I know I'm being guided back to a certain path. But, you know, we'll have to see. because it's episode 1, all I've really done is made the choices. We'll see where it goes. I do like the new details they've added into, like you can go on the back computer and you can look up the news of Gotham, which I'm going to assume will react to your choices later on, and you can watch Gotham news, and you can, like, look up bios on characters and stuff, so that stuff's good. And you can watch Gotham news, and you can, like, look up bios on characters and stuff, so that stuff's good. Voice casts, all good. It's all good. I would even say that in some respects it borders on great. Yeah, in some respects it borders on great, but I would give this a 7 or maybe an 8 out of 10. I think the rating will depend on whether or not any of my choices have any consequence later on. So yeah, I tentatively recommend this. I'd say maybe wait until it's a full package and see if it all holds together then. But for now, I'm enjoying it and I'm intrigued to see where it will go next. Thank you for listening, and see you soon.